with our fans. I think we had 66,000, which I am unbelievably appreciative of. It was a great environment. So I got a chance last night. It's become a little bit of a tradition for us. Friday night, we take a trip over to the RVs around 10:30 at night and thank the fans and walk up on some tailgates and thank them for being there. I thought overall today we got what we wanted to get out of it. We stayed healthy, which is the most important thing, especially in our situation. We were able to mix the run and the pass. Obviously, our defensive line still holds an advantage over our offensive line. That's going to continue to be a work in progress and a focus all off season. It was great to see some of the running backs and Nick Scott and Akeel Lynch make some plays. But we got great work. We had two real teams. We didn't end up having to run guys from one sideline to the other, so guys got a bunch of reps. We went a running clock after the first quarter, so I think overall we had a really effective spring. But like I just told our players, this needs to be a player-driven program from now until we start camp, and they need to take ownership of the program. We'll be as good as they decide to be in the off-season with their preparation and work. So I open it up to questions. Open it up to questions, guys. Do we have any mics? Do we have any microphones, guys?
James, did you play Christian longer than you had wanted to? And I'm guessing because of Trace's situation. What is that situation?
Yes, sir. In the future, we've talked about this in the past. I won't answer any questions from any media not wearing blue, so I'll make an exception right now. Yes, sir. But yeah, we were obviously we had a plan for Trace McSorley to play a good portion of the game. We were going to play Christian for a series or two, but we weren't able to use Trace today, so that's why Christian got a lot more reps than we intended.
James, now that you have now that you have gone through all the spring practice you saw today, and you've seen other scrimmages as well, where would you say the offensive line is just overall, and what do you think you saw today?
I think we're way ahead of where we were at this point last year. As a group, we still got a situation now where we got a brand new guy trying to learn at left tackle, and I think that showed up a few times today. But as a group, 4 out of the 5, and really, in the totality of it, I think we're further along. We still got a lot of work to do. I told you guys that last year. It's not like we're going to be able to flip a switch and it's going to change overnight. But I'm confident between now and the start of camp that we can take another step and then continue to grow during camp and be ready to go. We also have an influx of more talent coming in to create more competition throughout our program. I don't know if you got a chance to see a bunch of those guys at the game today. They look great. We're excited about them as well. So just the more competition, the more depth we can have in the program, I think it's going to be great.
James, you're going to have a rookie kicker, a place kicker, no matter what. Some kickers kind of ease into the role, some kickers have a little trouble their first year. Sam did, and then he was tremendous by his senior year. What do you see in the demeanor of these two guys, and what can you tell us about how they'll be? Short memory? What's their attitude?
Who are you referencing? Which two?
Well, I'm talking about Joey Julius in particular. I'm more interested in, but I left it open.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Joey Julius, he's not your typical kicker. He was a high-level soccer player, so he's a very competitive guy. I've been very, very pleased with his leg strength. You saw it on kickoff, but there's still a lot of things fundamentally that we have to get cleaned up. I thought he had a good spring. I thought he showed that today. I mean, all of his kickoffs were 8-9 yards deep. But in the kicking competition, I would have liked to see those guys be a little bit more consistent, especially on the shorter range kickers. Once it got deeper, I know who they are in that circumstance. But I don't really see. You see Tyler. Tyler's an older kid. He transferred in as well. You look at Julius with his background. He's not like just a true kicker. That's all he's ever done. He's played pretty high level competitive soccer in the past. I think that helps him in competitive environments.
Coach, you mentioned that the defensive
line has an advantage over the offensive line. Oh, wait a second.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to bring this up too. But can you talk specifically about the DNs and what you saw? Because you know about the tackles coming back, but you lost some ends. Talk about the defensive ends specifically.
Yeah, I thought all spring our DNs played really well. I made that comment a couple weeks ago that I didn't feel like that was a question mark anymore. You know, I think it's a little bit different on the defense than it is on the offense, especially on the defensive line. You know, most of the guys that we're talking about, Terrell Barney at defensive tackle, Parker Cothran at defensive tackle, Sickles at defensive end, Schwan, all those guys played a decent amount of reps. Talk about, 30 reps a game. You know, so the fact that they're going from a number 2 or a number 3, they still played a lot. And then we had Torrance Brown, who we were really excited about as a redshirt guy, and I think he's done some really nice things. And Carl Nassib, I'm so proud of Carl. Carl got up last night. We had a banquet and spoke at a banquet, the endowment banquet. We're talking about a guy that showed up here as a 6'5", 218-pound walk-on, and now he's a 6'7", 273-pound scholarship starting defensive end that I think is going to have a breakout year for us. So I'm really, really proud of him. I think Coach Chaos, Coach Spencer's done a great job with that unit. But we felt that way last year. We felt like we had depth and talent. We've lost some guys, but that depth is still showing up for us at that position.
James, could you talk a little bit about the value of spring practice as far as recruiting goes, and how you felt you've done this spring in terms of building relationships with guys?
Yeah, I think as you guys know, for us to go where we want to go, recruiting is a big priority. Recruiting is a big priority for us. That's gonna solve a lot of our issues when it comes to competing, creating the competitive nature that we want in practice. We want to get to the point where we have the most competitive practices in the country, with a 3 deep at every position that are competing like crazy each day to take each other's jobs and make each other better. So we're working really hard on that. And we're working really hard on developing the players that we have. Right now we're at a point where we're going to shift. Our coaches are going on the road on Sunday. They'll be on the road for basically the next month recruiting. And our academic staff, as well as our players, are going to finish really strong in the classroom so we can have another record-breaking academic semester. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm going to be doing a 12-stop caravan all over the place. Just when everybody wants to see my face and listen to me for another caravan stop. But we're excited about doing that. Get a chance to get out in the community, build some relationships, have some fun, and then get back here in the summer, start summer school and the development stage.
James, when we talked to you the other weekend, you mentioned Nick Scott and Mark Allen as guys who've been able to get more opportunities due to some injuries you've had there. How would you evaluate their springs they had as a whole?
Yeah, I would say, I know today Nick Scott had a couple big runs and flashed, and that's a positive. I'm really happy to see that. But I think overall, I thought Mark Allen had a really strong spring. That's going to be important. We didn't have Jonathan Thomas, who's a guy we're really, really excited about. So I'm hoping he'll be ready to go come camp. And then we got some guys coming in as well that I think are going to be able to compete and create some competitive environments of practice. With Saquon and Andre. So we're excited about those guys too.
James, with Christian having to play a lot more than you expected, does that affect the way you evaluate his play? In other words, because you weren't really necessarily looking for him to play the whole game, maybe did you call plays differently because he was in there longer? Did you again expect maybe a little different production out of him because he wasn't expecting to play quite so much?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Part of it was we pulled Nelly out of the game, and then we put some guys in behind him, and now we're starting to get more pressures and things like that. So I don't think it's going to change our evaluation. We're going to evaluate all our guys and the amount of plays they played. We're going to grade each play and make a determination of how we feel it went. I've told you guys before, grading our quarterbacks, grading our running backs, in a lot of ways is difficult to do at this point until we get our O-line playing, a little bit more consistently, a little bit more aggressively. and a little bit more cohesiveness with the whole group.
James, to your right, when Christian got stepped down in the second quarter on that pass rush, A, were you concerned, and B, did you think about taking him out for the rest of the game?
No. No, I mean, he got stepped on. That's football. He reached down, rubbed his toe, shook his foot, and went back and got going. So, to me, it's spring ball. If we do get a bump, if we do get a bruise, if we do get a strain or a scratch, we got time to get them right before camp. So that's why we tried to have a pretty physical, aggressive spring, because we're still at a point where we're going to be limited in camp. We were really limited last year what we were able to do to have a really demanding physically and mentally camp, and we're going to still have some limitations this year. So to me, we approach spring to be a little bit more physical, knowing that we're still going to have some challenges in fall.
James in the back here. Some of the guys that didn't play today that were limited, guys like Adam Brenneman, Ben Klein, Wortman, you held them out. Are you expecting them back preseason? Was that a precaution type thing you did?
Yeah, as you guys know, it wasn't a precaution. It's not like we're saving anybody for the fall. They just weren't able to go at this point, and we're planning on all those guys being ready to go when we come to camp. But that's also going to be part of our decision-making process. When we have to decide on the 105 and who's coming to camp, we're only going to bring the guys that come to camp that are able to play. So that'll be part of the decision-making process with that. But no, it's not like we were holding guys out precautionary. If they could go, they went today. If they couldn't, they were being held out.
Hey, James. Over here. James, how would you evaluate, you said that it's hard to grade the quarterback?
Hey guys, if you guys could please be, I can't even hear the questions. If you guys please.
I know it's hard. You said it's hard to grade the quarterbacks, but Tommy Stevens, where is he compared to where you thought he might be, at this point of his career after coming in January?
Yeah, I think Tommy, considering, he should still be in high school and going to his prom. I think the 15 practices that he had were really good. I thought, he shows that he doesn't get rattled. I thought he learned the playbook pretty well. I think he's got really natural vision for seeing the field and understanding concepts. And then he showed some mobility as well, which is exciting. He still needs to get in the weight room. I think he's gained about 12 or 14 pounds, but he could probably still gain another 35. But I've been pleased with him overall. I thought all three quarterbacks, as well as Fessler, four quarterbacks, had a nice spring. And I thought Trace, up till last week, really had a strong spring.
Hey, Coach. In what ways have you seen the wide receivers grow this spring, specifically Sadie Blacknell and DeAndre Tompkins?
They're just playing faster. Today I thought, we needed to make some more people miss. We had some opportunities in the open field to make people miss and didn't do that. But that's also credit to our defense, was tackling well. But I just think they're all playing faster right now. They're not thinking as much. We were really young at that position last year. So I thought overall they took a real strong step. They're bigger, faster than they've ever been from their time in the weight room. And I think that will continue to grow this offseason.
James, Christian brought the ball down and ran it 3 or 4 times in the first half. Is that something you're encouraging him to do? And also if you could evaluate his evolution as a leader.
Yeah, I think we're always encouraging the quarterbacks to go through their progression. If the guy is open, throw it to him. If the progression 1's open, throw it on time. If he's not, move to progression 2. If he's open, hit it. If he's not, hitch up in the pocket to your progression 3, which is typically your outlet, and take it. If he's not there, then continue to use that momentum when you hitch up in the pocket and go get us 4 yards and keep us back on schedule. So I thought he showed some times of doing that today, which was great. And I think overall, his leadership is right on schedule. I see him interacting with his teammates a lot more. I see him interacting with the coaches a lot more. I think where you're really going to see it is this offseason. When the coaches are on the road and coming in and watching film on his own with the receivers or with the O-line and talking protections, going out and throwing on their own. I think that's where you're really going to see the big step with him is this offseason and taking ownership of the team, especially the offensive side. Guys, thank you so much.